So this session is going to be the best practice workflow for sales and dispatch. Really, it's a collection of information across the sales and dispatching aspect of NextGen. So as far as agenda, we're going to start out with a customer advocate, which is going to be Erika from Sims Crane. And from there, we're going to go into a business process discussion and then hit up best practices for quoting. And then we'll take a break, and then we'll get into the second half. For introductions, I'm David Thornton, Senior Technical Product Manager for Fleet Cost and Care. I try to stay in the shadows, working on the stuff behind the scenes. Oftentimes I get pulled in customers and working with you guys directly, which is definitely enjoyable for me. But I do a lot of the designs, troubleshooting, technical stuff, installations, that sort of thing. And then I'll hand it over to Taylor here.
Yeah, I'm Taylor Harmeyer. I'm an implementation specialist and a customer success manager. Some of you sitting out in the audience are definitely some familiar faces, so thanks for joining us today. Yeah, we'll get started.
All right, Erika? So Erika Sims comes from Sims Crane. She's the vice president. And she's been a long-time user of Fleet Cost and Care, so I'll let her. Do you want to do an introduction for yourself? Or?
Sure, absolutely. I started in 2004 at Sims, and I ran the safety department for about 7 years. That was fun. And then I spent about 9 years running our sales department throughout the state of Florida. And about 2 months ago, I moved into more of an operations role. I am also a business owner. I have a couple other partners, and we are a third-generation family-owned business. We've seen a lot of growth. We've seen a lot of challenges, but I think we're in a good space thanks to some of the products that we're using with Adam and NextGen.
All right. So we'll kick it off with questions. So can you talk about how Adam has helped your sales and operational teams in the field?
Yes, and I have a couple notes on some of these things, but really for us it's been an issue of efficiency and simplicity, right? A lot of us come from a world where, for so many years we used paper tickets, we used CB radios, Blackberries, and you fast forward to where we are today, you had a lot of double entry, you had a lot of, data issues, you had information breakdown, and so implementing Adam for us just gave us a really good tool for our entire organization to always kind of know what was going on in real time. Adam, in particular, as opposed to just what I call the full install of NextGen, was useful because we were allowed at that point to put it onto mobile device platforms, right? Whether they were iPads or Android tablets or iPhones. And anytime when you have a large group of people or any group of people trying to manage workflow, the more you can simplify that process, the more intuitive that process or the system you're using is, the easier the compliance, right? So I could give everybody a full install of NextGen, but really, does everybody need that? No. And having to get into a very, intense data analysis, or what do we need this, what do we need this? Instead, we were able to roll out this app on any device across the state, for us it's across the state, and allow people to really be able to use that efficiently, effectively, and like I said, it really comes down to, for me, my biggest principle is simplification. The more complicated you make something, the less likely people are to follow those rules. So if we can make it simple, I don't want to use the term dumb it down, but we do use that term, then it usually goes much better and we have better compliance.
Absolutely. All right, so what challenges did you face during the implementation phase, getting users to adopt the software?
So I know we've all kind of talked about this. There's probably nobody in here who's never dealt with this issue. People do not like change, right? From whether it's life experience, whether it's work or family, whatever the case may be, people do not like change. We have a saying around our company, we say, the only person who likes change is a wet baby. And we've been saying that for a couple of years, but it really works. And I think, and Jane and I had talked about this prior, the single most effective thing that we found for dealing with those challenges, we knew there were going to be challenges. We knew, Joe has been here for 42 years and, he gets it done, so why does he have to do this? we never even gave anybody an option. When we decided January 1st of 2016 to implement NextGen and Atom, we did not give anybody a choice. It was a top-down decision. Every member of the executive team, every member of management understood what the mission was, and we never gave anybody a pass. We never said, oh, well, they don't have to do it. We had already gone through previous experiences with software launches and implementation. I spent $180,000 on trying to implement Salesforce, and it didn't work because Joe, we'll call him Joe for now, got a pass. And once that happened and people had an option, they opted for the less painful path, right? And so for us, we just went full bore, and we said, hey, we are going to roll all of it. We didn't piecemeal it. We literally implemented every part of the NextGen process and Atom out to all of our people. We put devices in everybody's hands. You know, but I do want to point out for us, it wasn't just end user, right? You had some end user change, you had training, but it made us look at device management. We had kicked that around. You know, our sales team had iPhones, our tactical operations team had flip phones. And we realized that going forward, we had to have some sort of device management in place. We had to look at our business process from start to finish, even though we had recently done that. And we had to say, okay, here's what we want, here's the mission, here's the end goal, and how do we do that? You know, and you got to, like everybody said before, everybody knows in this room, you got the pushback, the I don't want to do this, or I can't do this, and I know Shannon mentioned it. Well, if you don't do this, then I can't pay you. That seems to be a good thing to motivate people. But, you know, it took a little bit of time. But like I said, we never gave anybody option. And honestly, and I know this might be a question for people because we've all, and I apologize if I'm talking fast, have experienced it. I had one guy. We have over 500 employees today. And in the almost 4 years since we implemented these programs, we had one guy who came on board after implementation who just could never do it. And that was a requirement for us. If you did not use Atom to make your quote, you did not get a crane. It was that simple. And could he have been a tremendous asset? Yes. But we set the example, and we said this is what is acceptable and this is what is not. And sometimes you're going to have some pain, but we knew that if we did this, management becomes easier. This was a tool for us to help manage our business. And now we spend a lot less time trying to figure things out. And so we have a lot of freed up time, which then you can utilize people in different aspects. So
Absolutely. And given the size of the organization, how do you manage the new hires and going through orientation and onboarding with you know, factoring in NextGen and Atom?
So really, from an internal perspective, we have a corporate trainer, and she runs all over Timbuktu trying to get everybody to stay on point with, you know, what's the next thing, where do we identify that we need some additional training. You know, the once and done doesn't work. It didn't work for us, right? You can't just expect that I'm going to onboard this guy tomorrow and I'm going to train him and I'm never going to have to see him again. It does not work that way. We are currently in a process right now of kind of reviewing some of our training and trying to figure out, you know, what is a better way to scale this training to the size of our business and our future plans, right? And so you get into a situation where training has to always evolve. It has to be a living, breathing thing. You can't just say, this is the way you're going to do it. By the time you finish rolling it out that way, it's already changed. You know, and you have to say that with everything that we're doing as our companies and our organizations, you know, what is the ultimate mission? That's what we call it. What is the mission? What is the end goal result? And you have to tailor that training. And so we have people. We have cross-training across different teams and different departments. Not one person can do it. Morgan cannot go, and sorry, she's in here, so I keep pointing her out. But Morgan cannot go to 12 branches and deal with 500 employees. It's not logical. It's not possible. You know, the average person, and I don't want to get into his studies and stuff like that and stats, but maybe they can manage 6 to 10 people effectively. So for us, in order to be effective training and through this process as we continue to evolve, you've got to have multiple people who understand what the end goal and mission of the company is, what the training needs are, and also to be able to lead, to identify when they have challenges, identify future potential challenges, and then adjust our course of action as necessary. And for us right now, we're looking at more video training. I mean, we have WebEx, we have Zoom, there's FaceTime, there are a variety of things. We have the little digital whiteboard that nobody at work seems to figure out how to use. But there are ways for us to do that, and you have to take, for us at least, you have to take what we have and all the mobile tools and communication we have today and make the most of it.
Outstanding. All right, so what about metrics? What are some of the metrics that you've been able to take away since implementing Next Gen and Atom?
So again, I mean, I know we talked about granular metrics and things earlier. We could all go through that. I mean, everybody's going to be a little different in what they find. Is it utilization? Is it variance? Is it, maintenance costs? Is it identifying issues? But I think if we step back for a second, some of the ones it's again, increased efficiency, right? Let me back up. So we were with Crane Cost and Care many iterations ago, back in 98, 99-ish, I believe. Is that right?
Like 02, 03.
Okay, yeah, right about there. And we decided, or the person in charge at the time said, okay, well, we're going to develop our own system. So we brought in a programmer, we started writing our own system. We did that for 13 years. Our system really, no matter what we kept doing, no matter what we threw at it, it just wasn't getting to where we needed it to be. There was a lot of double entry. Double entry equaled errors. We had started pioneering the idea amongst ourselves of, oh, well, let's use the same system we built really around our accounting platform because that's where it started. And let's do quote to order. And then we finally got to a point where we had some new people come in to help lead our organization, and they said, hey, what else is out there? And so we went back and we got in touch with the team and said, okay, well, what do you guys have? And you guys were light years ahead of us, right? And so that efficiency was really our number one goal, was to create efficiency, to really look at what we have going on, how we were doing things, and expose our gaps, right? The second part of that was just increased communication, which can go back and forth, right? We have different communication styles, and how do we adapt to that? But this ability to see everything that's going on right now, for everybody on my team to see the same data, and to know, hey, I need a machine in this part of the state, and where can I find another one? It's okay, it's over there, right? And so it helps us to communicate because we're all looking at the same information, as opposed to waiting 3 weeks till billing finally got the package from the branch so they could bill it, and then maybe we could figure it out. Some of the other issues that were like real-time data, we talked about that. Centralized dispatch, that's a huge one for me right now. In my new operational role, it's looking at, as you grow as a company and as you're managing assets in multiple locations and multiple people, this idea that we've had for a long time of centralized dispatch, right? That increases your efficiency. You're not bringing a crane for us from Jacksonville to cover in Tampa when there was a branch in between that had that machine, right? And it's using those tools, right, to organize who we are and to figure out what we want to do next. I look at it as, these efficiencies or these tools within NextGen and the data that we're getting leads to questions. Questions lead to evolution, right? Leads to better decision making. It gives us opportunity to manage our people. In the late 70s, we were all throughout the southeastern United States. One of the biggest challenges I've gotten as feedback from people within our organization who were there during that period was a lack of information, lack of being able to, visibility into what are they really doing in Atlanta if we're in Tampa, right? Today we have the tools. It's just whether or not we can use them. And NextGen has provided us so much information for us to be able to, again, reorganize or make decisions or changes. Now, that doesn't mean we want to change everything. I do want to point that out. That was a big thing. We spent, I don't know who's in here right now, but the first 6 months to a year of implementation for us, we were a little hard-headed, and we kept trying to force the program to fit our needs. That didn't work. And so we finally got to a point where we could say, you know what, let's put our egos in check, let's step back, and let's find out how the program was written to begin with. What did Ken, for example, what was your vision for this? Or Jeff, or whoever was involved in the team, how did you see this working? And once we were able to remove ourselves for a second and step back and say, okay, well, that makes sense. Maybe we need to adopt this within our business flow. That doesn't mean we went with everything that was out there. There are things that are going to be innate to any of our companies that we feel are unique, or they're what make us successful, right? So we can't change everything about ourselves, otherwise then we're all going to be doing the same thing all at the same time. But for us, it allowed us an opportunity to increase a lot of places that we really need some additional help to maybe we weren't doing things right. And for us, 60 years, there's a lot of, well, this is the way we've always done it. We all know the drill. This is the way we've always done it. It's always worked this. Why do you have to change everything? And it wasn't about that. It was just saying, we took change out of the vocabulary and said, okay, well, how can we be better? Like today, seriously, how can we be better? Using NextGen, getting the visibility, the metrics. I know we talked about that. We've used Power BI. We took it that next level too. Those are the kind of things that have really helped us. And we start looking at questions as to, what jobs are we losing? Who has a crane that can cover for tomorrow? How do we evaluate people? How do we evaluate personnel? Well, the more information you have, current information, you can do something with today rather than tomorrow or next month or next week, because we would prefer to be getting ahead of our problems and anticipating them rather than having to chase them all the time.
All right. Well, thank you for that. That's all the questions we have. So
Thank you.
appreciate all your insight. Thank you.
Anytime. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.